Now, I'm a philosopher, and my guess is not nearly all of you are either philosophers or majoring in philosophy. I mean, that's a sad truth about the world, but that's the way it is. And what I'm going to talk about here for a half hour or so is philosophy. And I have to admit philosophy has sort of how shall I put it, a bad press in the world these days. And perhaps with some reason, actually, because when you think about philosophy, when you do philosophy, you have to think about some kind of miserable, unpleasant situations. So, for example, there's the idea of being a brain in a vat, you know. You imagine that you are captured by aliens, transported to their planet somewhere a long ways from here. They remove your brain from your skull, keep it artificially alive in a vat of nutrients, attach electrodes to various parts of it, and the other end to their Apple computer, and then they type in what it is they want you to think and feel and believe. Well, I mean, if that were to happen, everything would seem to you just the way it does seem, right? So how do you know that's not the case? How do you know you're not a brain in a vat? That's a kind of miserable thing to think about. That's a miserable scenario. Another scenario is that of, if you're a philosopher, you have to think about solipsism. A solipsist is somebody who thinks that he or she is the only thing that exists, everything else being a figment of their imagination, right? So if you're a solipsist, you think that you alone exist and everything else is a figment of your imagination. Now, there have been some solipsists. For example, the philosopher Bertrand Russell was a solipsist for a while. Of course, for most anything you pick out, Bertrand Russell was it for a while, so that's not so surprising. According to his report, he once got a letter from a woman, I think Lady Ladd Franklin was her name, and she said something like this. She said she had read what Russell had written about solipsism, and she found it really convincing. She thought, that's right, solipsism is right. And she said, I wonder why there aren't more of us, which is a little paradoxical, maybe. When I was just starting off in philosophy many years ago at Wayne State University in Detroit, I heard that there was a real live solipsist there, a professor in the medical school. So I decided I wanted to see what a solipsist looked like, you know, how they would behave and so on, what their reaction would be to me, who would be for them just a figment of their imagination and the like. So I went to see this professor in the medical school, and we had a reasonably friendly chat, you know, a satisfactory chat. He treated me pretty well for a mere figment. So then finally it became time to leave, so I set out to leave, you know, and one of his younger colleagues took me aside and said, you know, we take very good care of Dr. So-and-so because when he goes, we all go. So that's solipsism.